What's up, guys? Welcome to the Do You podcast. I am Boyder, and this is the show where I sit down with entrepreneurs, creatives, movers and doers, people of this sort, people doing dope stuff. I'm looking for insight on what makes them tick. I'm looking for inspiration myself, so it's kind of a self-serving podcast, and I'm hoping that you can live through the conversations as well. I think there's nothing more badass than someone that knows what they want to do, sets out to do it, does a great job at it, is completely themselves, and has a blast in the process. That's what this show is all about. And I'm sitting down with Peter Rosenberg today. He is a successful podcaster. Who better to have on my first show than someone that can actually coach me on how to do this thing for real. We talk about how he was fired twice in the same day, to how that led to his career now as the longest tenured morning host in New York City's Hot 97 radio history. He's a G. He doesn't have that much free time, so I'm appreciative that he sat down to get this thing kicked off. We talk about his bromance with Kendrick Lamar, the importance of honesty, believing in oneself, and having balls in this ruthless entertainment industry. I learned a lot. I hope you guys enjoyed as much as I did. And without further ado, here is Peter Rosenberg. This is it.
This is it?
We're talking.
Yeah, it's recording. I see the levels. First of all, why is this? I touch this water and there's do you have a moisturizer on your hands? It's there's a slick area on the water.
There's some sort of sugar.
Yeah, there's a gunk on the so
is that the question?
That was the question.
Waiting for the
yeah, one of the I wanted the podcast to start so I could ask you why there's a weird sugar gunk.
The first thing why is it so loud now? Look how loud it is.
I don't know. The levels do look high, but that's good though.
That's
I think
fine?
those levels look good.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. All right, so what's up, man?
I'm chilling. Introduce me to the audience.
Okay. Listen, all right. I know who you are.
Actually, no. Introduce yourself first. Introduce what this is. You're even doing.
You think I should do all that?
Yeah, I mean, even though a podcast will have a name and a listing, you still want to say, "Hey, welcome to blank."
Okay.
It's kind of just form that you do.
Well, here's the thing. I'm gonna throw out. Okay. Here's the tentative title for this podcast.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna pitch this to you.
All right.
The tentative title is called "Do You." All right, and my name is Tom Boyd. People call me Boyder. I'm sitting down with an old friend of mine. His name is Peter Rosenberg. You have a lot of experience in the world of media. You have a couple successful podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
So my point today is to sit down with you and two things,
okay.
right? I want to learn how to do a podcast.
Okay.
And I want to get some backstories, maybe some fun stories that have nothing to do with it, but learn a little bit more about you so I can maybe, bring that to my game, or it can help inspire someone else to maybe start their own podcast.
Wow, okay.
And number two, I want to invent a new word. Because I think in our conversation, whenever we talk, we always invent some sort of new word, or in pop culture, just in general, you're good. I'm talking way too much.
No, this is a podcast.
Okay. In general, right, you're always on the pulse of what people are saying, and you may not invent the word, but you definitely inject life into words to bring them more to a mainstream conversation.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. I've invented some, but really my forte is I get behind a word that I'm into and I run with it until it's a thing.
You push new words the way Diddy will push his new album.
Exactly. I keep going. It's every time. It's a hashtag. I'm not to the point. I'm not 50, where 50 will write an Instagram post that's yo, fuck that bitch, I hate her. Hashtag effing vodka. And I'm I don't even know if they want
SMS audio.
SMS audio. They don't want that association.
Yeah. No.
But I do run with that is a I'll tell you, boom, you stumbled right into a lesson. One of the things that I've learned is that having your own lingo is a critical part of a podcast.
Interesting.
Yeah, in terms of really garnering an audience that feels like they're a part of something, it makes an impact to have your own language.
It's almost like your tribe can communicate within themselves.
Yep. It's true.
And they hear that on the street and they'll associate it with the voice of where they've heard that the most. Once it becomes more popular.
Yeah, and some, on my wrestling podcast, Cheap Heat, we have a lot of words that you would only plug. Cheap Heat. It's an iTunes podcast. You can search for it, but it's we use words that they've only heard. You would only hear them there. So if they're on social media and they're I've seen conversations in which I get added in, in which someone will say a word and
Yeah.
then the other person's like, oh my gosh, you listen to blank. And like that's how they identify
Yeah.
each other. So I didn't do that intentionally, but I have learned that I think that's like a critical part of it. It's giving people a reason to feel like a part of something.
Cool. I support that. Now, I think we got it. We're a couple minutes in here. This was meant to be my first question. All right, you're at a barbecue.
Okay.
Right, you got a nice plate, maybe some pork on there, maybe some Brussels sprout. You like sprouts?
At a barbecue, I do.
You're at a barbecue, and someone comes up to you. You don't know this person, right? They are talking to you. They want to know, what do you do? What do you say? What's your tagline for that moment where you don't want to have the long conversation, but you want to get it across in an effective, short, concise manner?
Well, I mean, it's tough because when you're in entertainment, generally speaking, when you tell them what you do, it's a long conversation.
Yeah.
Unless there's someone who happens to, and there are people like this, and bless them, but there are people who like just don't care about entertainment that much.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's certain like howdy-towdy circles, or hoity-toity. I never heard that phrase.
Hoity-toity.
That's right? It's not
maybe howdy-towdy is the word we invented.
Yeah, there you go. You have one. But maybe in certain circles they don't care. But by and large, when I meet people in my similar demographic, like age-wise or whatever, and I'm like, my basic answer would be, I'm a like radio and TV host.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Cool.
So yeah, I just stick with like, I'm a radio and TV host.
Yeah.
Or I'm in, if I said I'm in media, like that would be this general like a get.
Yeah.
That means like that would be in a situation like where I utterly don't want to be bothered.
Yeah,
but like I don't think that really happens very often.
Yeah,
I feel that way.
You're good at. I think you're someone that has mastered the art of small talk, where you can kind of morph into whatever conversation presents itself to you. And
yeah, I'm pretty good at that. I'm pretty good at schmoozing.
Yeah.
One time somewhere, I mean, I do though, like end up in like tonight after we go here, we're gonna go to the Mitchell Ness party or whatever, and like I will seek out the people that I know.
Yeah.
And I will then kind of retreat beyond that unless people come and engage me. So that's always been a thing for me.
Because then that can come very repetitive. People.
No, I'm not shy, but I don't go start conversations with strangers.
Yeah.
Like you are more apt to do that than I am by far.
Do you think so?
Yes. Like it's not like when we were going to shows and stuff, I was the one who was going to go talk to girls. Like, I might know a girl that I invited.
I had to do that for the team.
Well, but here's the point. Okay, great example. A few weeks ago, I was in LA. I went out to dinner and a club with a player on the Lakers and some friends of mine. Yeah. I met him for the first time. Good guy. And we go to the club. He has bottles. He has everything. But he didn't bring like a dude. He didn't bring his Boyder.
Yeah.
If he has one, he wasn't there. So no girls were around.
Yeah.
So we were just the dudes with the VIP space, a 7-foot dude, bottles, and no chicks. It's really the lowest on the totem pole you could be.
It really is.
Because that means you have the money and the clout, but you're still not able to have any chicks around.
Isn't that crazy? Like there's like that missing connection there that I've experienced that, and I've been in situations where I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm the guy.
What do you mean? You've done it I saw you do it a million times. Because not even like Asher was that guy.
No,
at all.
No,
like we would go to a place and like me and him would just sit down and start talking amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
And then you and Brain would be the ones who like bring people around.
Well, in my defense, we would
This is the ultimate praise.
No. We would. It didn't really matter the gender. I was talking to the person that ran the event.
That's true. That's true.
The guy tweaking the levels to, just making friends with whoever. Because I was like, this may not last, so I'm going to meet everyone here that I possibly can.
And as it turned out, it didn't. So you made a good decision.
Yeah, you're right. And we're still friends.
Yeah, exactly. So mission accomplished.
Yeah. It didn't last in that form. People are doing their own things.
Of course, but in terms of
that moment didn't last.
That moment was a specific moment.
Yeah.
And I, by the way, I still think there could be other really good moments.
Wasn't sure if we were going to get to there, but it makes sense because that's how we know each other. Maybe some insight to it, like the person who's listening this, that how we know each other.
So, Boyder, if you're listening to this, probably if you were listening to the first episode, there's a good chance you know that Boyder is very close old friends with Asher Roth.
Yes.
And we are in Philadelphia right now.
Yes.
The relative home of all of those guys. So Asher and I got cool after he came to New York to perform the first time on a Hot 97 show where I work. And he comes in there. I didn't know him at all. And I remember I talked to Scooter first. Scooter was the first person I ever talked to. And we had a conversation like the week before about the event. But it was like, hey, the thing, and in retrospect though now, it really is an indicator of who Scooter is and what he became, which is that like, even though it was just this Hot 97 show, like he wanted to talk to me because I was hosting the show. And like, just to like make sure we were on the good page and like, he was just ahead of it. Yeah. So when the show came around, I talked to Scooter before, but I didn't know Asher, and met him, Recognize. Were you at that SOB show?
I don't think I was at that
I don't think I met you at that one.
Nah, I was laying low, like, editing videos. Yeah.
So that was very early on, and, Asher and I, though we kind of probably appeared different on the surface, get along very well. Yeah. So, like, we just got along really well. We're both into sports, like, laid back dudes who like kind of like the ideal situation of like smoking weed and watching sports.
Yeah,
right? That's
exactly.
That kind of situation. And so we became cool, and I became a big supporter of Asher. And at that point, like Scooter and Allison and their team that was kind of doing this thing. The squad.
Moving everything.
So then at some point later, I don't know at what point, months later, more shows happened. You and Brain started being there all the time. Yeah. And there were like multiple shows in New York,
Ithaca,
and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna just come to all the tour shows.
Yeah, you were like the sixth man on the
Yeah, I was just like, I was like,
just around.
And I, you know what? I'm very happy with my decision to do that in retrospect. I was kind of becoming a somebody, but I wasn't really like I hadn't been exposed at that point yet to the level of like kind of madness that was following Asher. Yeah. Like that was brand new to me too. So I was excited by it and I felt the energy of it. And I'm like, oh man, I happen to really get along with these guys who are like in the middle of this awesome thing, like, and they want me around and I support it anyway. I should just roll. Just roll. Yeah. And I think, Syfe at some point gave me advice, even more recently than that, like Syfe had given me advice about situations like that, like with Kendrick. Syfe was like, they like you. Like, you like them. When they're around, you should be around. Yeah. He was like, because... You're invited. You're invited. And you may not always get the phone call that you're invited. You're invited. Yeah. So you should always be there because that's how... And now, as a result, in fast forward, like my relationship with TDE is unlike any other relationship I've ever had with major people before. Yeah. Like, and so it was, in the case of you guys, it was partially business, and it was definitely more, even though I love TDE very sincerely and personally, it was more personal for this. Yeah. Like, I really was just having fun. Like, it was such a good time.
That was a cool moment. Let's get back to, like, kind of the whole podcast, you a little bit. Okay. Do you mind if I do that?
Of course not.
All right, I'm going to read you a quote right now.
Okay.
I'm going to read you a quote. All right, I want to make sure I get it right. I dream of being in a position where there can be issues that actually mean something to me, and I can say something and actually help an issue. Does that remind you of anything?
That does ring a bell.
Who said that and where?
I know I said that. I know I dream of being in a position. I know I said that. You remember what it is? Scatterbrain? Yep. Oh,
it's your very first video on YouTube. I scrolled all the way down. I was like, I want to know what Peter was like, the first content.
Good. Yo, I gotta tell you, I've done a lot of interviews, and no one's actually gone back to the beginning of my YouTube page.
It was the easiest go. I didn't like. There was so.
It's not that hard, but when you think about it, but yo, that thing at the beginning.
That was
crazy.
Real. There's like dramatic music and stuff.
Yeah, we talked about on the drive here. The kids, it was a documentary that these kids made about me. They were 17 years old. Yeah. And they called me. I was on the radio in D.C. in 2005, and these 17-year-old kids called me, and they're like, hey, we listened to your show. I had a talk show at the time. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like 25 and trying to figure it out. And they were like, do you mind if we like come up there and film and like do this documentary for school?
Yeah.
So if you go on YouTube to the way beginning of my page, it's a 4-part documentary. And
you're like driving in your car, like somber, but it's real, like
super
like,
real.
It's actually like I got like a little emotional watching.
No, I know. It's kind of bugged. Like one day I'll go to another level, I hope, and people are gonna go back and look at that and be like, yo, this is crazy that this video exists. But yeah, I do remember saying that.
Now, can you take me from that moment, right, and to how you got to Hot 97? What was it?
I always wanted to be on Hot 97.
Okay.
So I wanted to be there from when I was very young, and I would call Hot 97 after college when I was doing radio in DC, and I would talk to people, and I eventually talked to the program director, John Dimmick.
Weren't you persistent with it or something?
Yeah, I would hit him up like every 6 months, and just like, hey, it's Peter Rosenberg, blah, blah, blah. And I went up one day, he let me have a meeting. I drove to New York. This is like 02, 03. I was very young, very little experience in radio. Some, but not much. And I met with John Dimmick, and he's like, dude, you know, you're a cool guy. I love your drive. He was like, but, you know, you've just barely been on the radio, and this is Hot 97.
There's people that have experience.
Yeah, and this is Hot 97, and no disrespect to my current station, because I'm still there and I love it, but like this is Hot 97 in like 2002. Yeah. Like it's scorching hot.
Yeah, that's
like,
the only place you go.
So
for music.
He's like, you know, I'm sure you're great, and I have faith you come back. He was like, but you know, you're just young and blah blah blah. So I said okay, and I continued on doing radio in DC and got fired from some stations and ended up on this talk station. You know, and even that though, there's a little story to that. Like the guy who fired me it was a job with CBS Radio. They were the company, and he fired me from a station in DC, 2 stations that he owned. I got fired from both of them.
Yeah, isn't like the same day or something?
Same day, bad day. For a quote I said in the article that like got taken out of context, and he wasn't mad at me, but he was like, I have to fire you. Like you sound crazy. Yeah. And so he fired me. I did some XM. And then, you know, maybe a year and a half after he fires me, the same guy called me. And he's like, hey, Peter Rosenberg, Jay Stevens here. And Jay's still a big shot in radio, by the way, at Radio 1 now. Yeah, Peter Rosenberg, Jay Stevens here. Are you still interested in doing talk radio? And I was like, yeah, I mean...
I was until you said I couldn't.
No, keep in mind, I hadn't done talk radio with him. I had only done part-time hip-hop radio. But he just knew that I wanted to. So I was like, yeah. And he was like, I'm gonna put you in touch with so-and-so at WJFK, with Cameron Gray at WJFK. He's the program director over there. And they're looking for some young people, like something different. Yeah. I was like, all right. So this is just a cool lesson. You know, this same guy who fired me, who I kept it cool with, like I understood when he fired me.
You could have made it bitter. You could have made it personal.
Nah, it was all cool. Yeah. Hits me back. And it's like, do you want to come back to radio? I go back to the same company, CBS. Cameron says, I meet this guy, Cameron Gray, who I now love, and is like, I don't talk to him very often anymore. We just like comment on each other's Instagram and stuff, but like, he's the home. That's communication. That's friends. He's a friend. He's like,
that's our friendship.
Exactly. He's a friend for life, though. Yeah. And Cameron, you know, Cameron's probably now in his mid to late 40s maybe. And Cameron says, you know, I come and talk to him, and he's like, I'm going to try you out on like a weekend night or whatever. So he gives me a weekend night, and he's like, I'm like, what am I doing here? And he's like, you can just come in and, you know, do with the Peter Rosenberg show. Do what you do. And I'm like, okay.
So I got to make that.
Yeah, so this is in D.C. The station's in Virginia, and though it doesn't have the best wattage, it's a big known station. At the time, they carried the Redskins and Howard Stern. So it was a big station. Yeah. So I go and do that, and that led to me getting nights, which is what that documentary, and that documentary takes you up until they give me the afternoon show. Okay. Got the afternoon show, did that for a while, and then I got into some shit with people I was working with, like a guy who was high up at the station who at the time, like, it's funny, man, you look back in history, and like, don't get me wrong, I have some balls now, but I look back and I'm like, yo, bro, I just didn't give a shit. Like, I really believed I was Howard Stern, and if like some guy who had power had a problem with me, I was gonna be like, I'm the fucking young guy and I'm on point, and I ended up losing that job kind of as a result of that.
Now, what gave you that confidence at that stage in the game? Was that just innocent, just ambition, just in there thinking about the big picture? Or I
mean, the truth of the matter is, and I don't even know whether I've yet lived quite to my expectations, but like, I believe from the second I showed up at college radio at 17, I was like, oh, I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good. I would like listen back to our tapes, like these are funny.
yeah.
This is like I
like your belief in it.
I believe
yeah,
I
your
really
faith
believed
in
it. I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like, I can get on a mic and just talk. Like I want that opportunity to have just a mic. And if you say like to this day, if I'm at Hot and something fucks up, which in radio happens every once in a while, and the song stops playing, even Ebro, who loves to talk, he'll like sit there looking around for a song.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
like, oh, what? And I'm just like, bro, hit the button.
yeah.
Oh, turn it on. Let's
Yeah,
talk.
Yeah.
There's dead air. I'm gonna fucking talk.
Yeah.
Like I don't care. Another
right now.
we didn't know what we were gonna talk about. Turn on the mic. I'm going to talk, and we are going to fill the time, and it's gonna be just fine. So I always believed that, and you know, it had its ups and its downs for me.
I'm in a position right now. I'm starting this podcast. I'm bringing you on to help me with this process of putting out content in an audio form. Now, I'm better on camera. I am. When there's a camera in the room, the same way when you want to talk, when there's dead space, there's a camera on, I'm looking at that, and I'm in it. But, you know, putting out content at the beginning can sometimes be nerve-wracking. Is there any advice for amateur or just a beginner podcaster that you would give, or a host, or just to not worry about the content you're putting out? Just own it.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I think you're in a situation, I can't speak to everyone, but since I'm talking to you, I think it's pretty safe to say that, you know, though you haven't necessarily had like your break or like some huge moment, I think you can tell based on how people respond to the things that you do, that you're not only like apt to do it, but you're pretty good at it, right?
I appreciate that.
It's true. I mean, I've seen it, every parody video you ever did, everything you've ever done, your shit with Jimmy Buffett, like it's all well done. Like you're pretty good. So like, I just would know that and think, what is the worst that happens? The worst case scenario is that no one listens to it. And if that happens, well then, you're like, all right, well podcast didn't work, on to the next.
Yeah.
So like, are people gonna like come to your house and be like, you fucking loser?
You're right.
Podcast?
Well, that's the takeaway, I guess. Like you look at the worst case scenario. Like, okay, I'm still at point A. You know,
right?
I still
There's nothing lost here.
Yeah.
And there's much more risk. The place that I'm at now is there's a lot more risk for everything I try.
Because you're on a stage,
If I step out now,
yeah,
I'm gonna do enough to push it where when I don't do it anymore, everyone goes, "What happened with the thing?"
Yeah.
So you're at a point now where you're building, and you can just try it. If it doesn't stick, and you move to the next one. You know, I think as time goes on, you're like, I really got to pick, like, what are the things that I do, and like that's what I do. And
it's more malleable now. I can like, you know, kind of contort it however I want. But if people see it on you now, you release something. It's like, all right.
Well, maybe do one episode and then stop.
Yeah.
You know, it's my wife is launching a podcast. It's crazy. She did her first demo episode today.
What's the concept of her podcast?
She's figuring it out. You know, she wants it to be.
It's like me.
She wants it to be sports related because that's what she does. But she wants to be able to inject her personality, and more than anything, you know, my wife's a TV personality. She's doing it to push herself to be more comfortable just being on a microphone.
Yeah.
Because she's not me. She's very good. I think my wife's fucking amazing and polished and getting very good. But she also would be the first one to tell you, like, I'm not my husband. I don't just like get on a mic and go.
And it's just not natural.
Like, it's work. Like I've watched her work at it and get better, and it's crazy. Like when you're with someone for life, forever, and they're your partner, and they take on something, and it's related to what you do. Man, my wife did preseason sideline reporting for the Mets this year. So she goes down to Florida. She's never done sidelines of baseball. She's done sidelines of basketball, this, that, and the next. They gave her a shot at baseball. And, you know, granted, it's preseason, but it's Major League Baseball. Like, it's not some random shit. It's like she ended up sitting there and interviewing like every player on the now World Series runner-up New York Mets. And I had to sit there, and I'd be sitting there watching this game, and it'd be like the middle of the day, and like, I'm going to toss it down to Alexa Dat with Curtis Granderson. And I'm sitting there like, like the feeling of watching your partner do that is amazing. Like, it's so much more. Like, I would trade in a heartbeat any bad moment that she didn't have any. But I would want them all.
You're almost like more protective.
Of
that person. You're like, I can take it.
I can take it. Like I fucked up so many times. But anyways,
go ahead.
No, she's just learning. So the purpose of hers is to talk about sports, let people know who she is, and just get better at being on air. Cool. You know, that's not her. I don't.
It just takes doing it. Just do the work.
I said today after she did it, she was like, "Oh, there were some things I liked, some things I didn't like," and I was like, "Yeah, but do you feel way better now about the whole thing?" She's like, "Oh yeah, absolutely." I'm like, "Yeah, just get out there and get in front of it and start doing it."
Internet hating. Talk about it. What comes to mind?
Internet.
Someone that's putting out a lot of content. Because I know there's an 18-year-old kid somewhere that wants to do something, but he's thinking about what 3 kids at lunch are going to see the song he's going to put out. And what advice would you give to that kid that's afraid to put that song out?
I mean, listen, I can give you advice, but I fall in the pitfalls all the time.
Yeah.
So, it's challenging being in a world where everyone can tell you what they feel and they can do it hidden. So, like, I read mean things about me basically every day.
Yeah.
Basically every day. And I hear mean things in real life, like, never. Never. So, all I get is handshakes and pointing out the car and pictures and nice things. But on the internet, you can see some shit that is. So I try to take it and really have fun with it. And, like, the really, like, vitriolic, nasty hate, I really can laugh at pretty well.
Yeah.
It's more like
they get creative.
They go like, and I'm like, that's funny. We count them down on our show. And we make it a thing, but like, there can be the little subtle ones where like, I'm flipping through like Jonathan Awesome podcast, let's say, and I'm reading and it's like, don't know how you thought, don't know how you didn't know that blah, blah, blah was blah, blah, blah. How could you get that so wrong or something? And like that will just like fucking
just like in your like a rock in your shoe.
Yeah, it's just a rock in your shoe.
I got to address it.
I got to address it. Yeah. And I do, and it's so stupid. Like just this week,
you don't get any like satisfaction.
There's no real win.
Yeah.
There's no. All you're doing is making them win.
Yeah.
So like this week, a guy wrote, and this wasn't a big deal. This wasn't mean, but it was still trolling. This guy's like, love the podcast, first time tweeting you, but how are you going to charge $30 for shirts? Like that's way too much. It's outrageous. Not even being a real dick, but just like, and I was like, bro, how much would you expect that we would charge for a shirt like that we're printing up and selling? Yeah. It's 2015. Like
people gotta send it out. You gotta package it.
There's not really a world in which you would order a shirt that any human being would want, and it would be much less than $30.
Unless it was on like a blowout sale at Kohl's. Or
exactly.
Something.
Like if you go to a concert,
$75.
You're like, yeah, $40 for a T-shirt. $75 for a sweatshirt. And I broke it down. I ended up copying. I went to the WWE shop, and I put one shirt in the basket, and I added shipping, and I fucking freeze framed. I'm like $31.50.
That's so thorough.
I'm like $31 if you want a shirt from WWE, and they have an entire factory making shirts. So, but like, why? Who gives a shit? The fact that he's interested is all that matters. Why indulge these things? But so I have to. So the ultimate answer is try your best to really understand that if anyone says anything to you, they are paying attention. Now, of course, if you do something terrible and people are hurt by it, that's a different situation.
That's a whole different story.
But if people are just throwing the reckless shade at you,
and you clearly have good intentions, you're putting out content. I when I searched your stuff, there's a never-ending content mill of Peter Rosenberg, like from your YouTube to wrestling to ESPN to Hot 97 to your stuff, like it never ends. There's gonna be a moment where you say something wrong. It's like the law
someone doesn't like.
Yeah, that someone doesn't like, and you know what? A technique that I'll do every now and then. I'll try to imagine what an internet hater like looks like. I'll try to be like, what is that? What's he doing? He's probably sitting in his mom and dad's basement right now. He's probably just salty.
Well, like
just in general, or anxious.
Like how many people do you know in your life
that would actually comment
on a YouTube video?
On a YouTube? No one.
Like I don't know people who comment on YouTube.
Unless I'm
the creator of the video.
Yeah, responding and saying, "Hey, thanks."
Right. The only people I even know who even read the comments are people who create videos.
Yeah.
So for everyone else in the world who I know who watches YouTube, like I've watched a million, let's say, Jimmy Fallon videos, right? Or Jimmy Kimmel when he puts up the Halloween joints. Have I ever once gone to like, fucking hilarious, Jimmy! Way to go! I can't wait till next Halloween. I've never done it. Never has it crossed my mind. So when I think about that, you really have to think about the kind of person. Not that they're all bad people, but
there's empathy for it. Like, I'm sorry,
and they're heavily invested.
You're so bad.
You're like
a stranger,
And and if a podcast, like, Now, like, I guess there are radio shows in which I listen to a sports talk radio show in DC that Chris Cooley from the Redskins is on. And there are times when he makes arguments that have trolled me into writing him and be like, bro, and like go at him a little bit over an opinion. But like,
that's almost built for that conversation.
That's because I'm trying to call in, because I will call sports talk radio. I have called before. Even though I'm on sports talk radio and I have called sports talk radio. And that means they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
But like, I don't ever send vitriolic hate. I think the worst thing I may have said, I may have gotten mad enough at Cooley to once be like, yo, bro, you're like, something along the lines of like, you give Robert Griffin III like so much advice on being quarterback. Like, have you asked anyone for advice on doing radio? Because like, there are a few things you're doing that you could use some help on as well. I know, because I'm a professional. Yeah. Because I listen to you.
I'm sensing Boyd right now.
Exactly. I can do the same for you. Yeah. I did that actually. I trolled like the entire wrestling podcast community when all these wrestling podcasts came up. I went on my podcast one day and I went on a rant about how I love that there are all these wrestling podcasts, but like, bro, some of you guys could like call someone who knows what they're doing and like ask for like a quick tutorial. Yeah. Like, not everyone just needs, like, I so respect.
You can't just hop in because you.
But I just love that your idea of doing a podcast, like, let me talk to someone first who I think knows a little bit. Yeah. Like, it's so disrespectful. That's why ultimately the word podcast, even though there's a lot of money in podcasting now, the word itself to me still connotes shit, because there's so much shit. Yeah. So in order for that to change, we need like people who really care about doing it, and then over time we're gonna need filters and channels and things that put a stamp on things, because it is the wild, wild west still.
Well, I'm glad that you feel that way about it, because it's a content medium that you're doing very well at, and there's a lot of people. It's like, you know, a musician out here with a label is crushing it, and then there's a bunch of people trying to do independent stuff on YouTube, and lots of it is junk. And my goal is to create actually authentic content that makes sense to me. So, you know, I want to sit down with, you know, producers, entrepreneurs, people that my friends own this coffee company. They're doing cold brew. They got it in a bunch of Whole Foods, and whenever I see them, like, I'm so excited to talk to them about like where they're at in it, and like the obstacles and things like that. So I'm like, I have these conversations already. Why don't I record them?
And that's what you want the podcast to be, is you want to learn how people do what they do.
Yeah, and
that's why you like Do You.
Yes, Do You.
Which I think is pretty good.
You support that?
I like Do You.
Do You.
Hip Hop Mike?
Hip Hop Mike.
I love it.
I like Do You. I think it makes sense. And it's cool that you know, obviously the podcast can include your own personality and your own stories, but the fact that it's about other people and helping other people inherently makes it, to me, a better, like, a lot of people just getting a podcast because they just need to talk, or feel that they need to, or they falsely believe they need to talk. Many of them, it's the opposite. They need to shut the fuck up, but they have a podcast. Not a shot. Shit, I have to go shortly, though.
Cool.
No, we haven't been that long. How long are we at? You have it set to bars and time. You want to click. If you click where the bars...
Should I click and save it?
No, don't do that. No, the top. Go to where that's going. Yeah, click that.
I think about like 30 minutes.
Bars?
No, like, see where the bars are moving? Try where it's moving right there. I thought that changes it. Maybe not. Mike, doesn't that change it on GarageBand? How do you make it change to the time instead of just bars? Yo, because I've dropped 1,200 bars, huh?
Music note right there. Display mode, time.
Okay.
Wow.
43. All right, so
not too bad.
Well, I like it. Can I do a little wrap up thing?
Yeah, of course.
When do you know when to wrap it up? Wait. Before that, I gotta ask some other questions. Wait, real quick. Speed fire. One moment you're most proud of.
One moment I'm most proud of.
Career moment, not like
Adopting Bear.
Adopting Bear the dog. No, in my career.
Yeah.
The hot job. I mean, I think I need someone else who's not me, because it's too douchey to look this up.
Yeah.
I am pretty sure that I'm the longest tenured morning host in the history of Hot 97. I'm pretty sure.
That's a beautiful thing.
So I think Ed and Dre didn't last 8 years. Star and Buck didn't last anywhere near 8 years. Miss Jones was nowhere near 8 years. Ebro's never going to catch up with me unless he fires me and stays by himself. So, like,
I'm 6 days also.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm on 6 days a week. But the fact that I not only made it to my place that was my dream, but I'm in the number one slot in the station I wanted, and I've been there now for almost 8 years or over 8 years. And to think that I'm the longest tenured ever at this place that I dreamed of being on, I mean, that's, people listen. I'm also aware of the fact
it's a long, healthy moment.
It's a long. That's the thing. It's like I've had moments when I thought it would end, right? Like 2 or 3 times when it felt like, Mike could tell you, when I'm like, I don't know, man. It feels like it's going left right now. I got to line up everything else. Like, I don't know. I'm gonna go meet with so and so and so and so. I got to set my shit up, man. And I believed it. And then, more often than not, my wife or my brother would be like, hey, they'd listen for a few days, and they'd be like, you know what? Kind of feels like maybe this is just one of those moments and you're freaking a little bit.
Yeah.
And this is just like, you're good. You need to chill out. And maybe one day listen, as I always say when the chips are down, I'm always like, radio only ends in one way. Okay? Like, no one rides off to the sunset.
Yeah.
One day you get blown the fuck out.
Yeah.
That's just how it happens.
It's like heat.
It's exactly. When you feel the heat coming.
Yeah.
Like, that's so I have times when I've thought that was happening. And, it's never happened. So far, it's like now if even the worst happened, it's like, well, now I have a 2-year deal at ESPN. So it's like I've now already set up something else. So granted, I'd be very sad to not be a part of Hot, and more importantly, because Hot has changed a lot, but I would just be sad to not be in the lives of those people. Like I meet people now who are like 22 and they've been listening to me since they were 15 years old, or like 30-year-olds who are like, I just got out of college. Yeah, so
Brian here, shout out to Fame House for letting us host this here. Brian listens to you. He knows, he's like the reason that like I know certain things about your life. Yo, you see Peter?
Yeah.
Like he's a stan of Peter Rosenberg.
No, there are people who have really followed along, and like, so that I'd be bummed out to not be there. Now, granted, many of those people who love me the most, maybe Brian, maybe people who really are into the most, will go find me elsewhere. But there are a lot of people who still really like me, and I make them laugh every day. But they have a job, and like they're not going to go chase it down. It's just like, I used to listen to that dude, and I don't want to be that guy. I want to. Now, granted, I think one day I'd pop up in something else for them again. They'd be like, hey, there's that dude. But I think I'm the most proud of the run I've had. It's been pretty good.
Can I tell you what I admire about you? And then one more question, and we'll wrap it up.
We can spend as long as you want to tell me.
Okay, cool. Now, I admire the fact that you are on so many different platforms, but you have a consistent personal brand. You can take it to wrestling. You can take it. You're talking about you got like underground hip hop shows on Sunday nights. You have so many different things, but you post up and you're you in them, and that's something that I want to get into, like the world of health eventually, like nutrition and cooking eventually, things like that, like that I aspire to. And are there any tips that you could give me on that front?
Yeah, the only way to be really good is to be yourself, in my opinion. Eventually, if you're not being utterly yourself, your fraud card's gonna get pulled. But if you're always yourself, like, I always say, like, no one's going to go find some tape of when I said something on the radio and be like, a gotcha moment, because I've always been me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't.
Like, you were so different here.
Yeah, like, no, maybe, I suppose maybe you go to the early years of our radio show and maybe I said things that at that time were appropriate and now may sound a little questionable. But, like, I know where I'm at in every moment, and I'm also like, how could you not be yourself? I don't know. It would just be really difficult, And like, I had a moment the other day. I rarely have moments where I hesitate to be honest.
Yeah.
But
that's important. That's
it's rare. It's rare for me. Where like I'm always like the main reason I feud with some of the people I feud with is because they're dishonest.
Yeah. And
I know for a fact. So that's when I know for a fact that the character you present is not how you really feel.
Yeah.
Everyone will say, well, you have to respect it. No, I don't. And I don't.
Yeah.
So, like, that's me. I don't. I respect honesty. So, I had a moment the other day where I was, like, telling a story about how I was freaking out during the Redskins-Patriots game. And my wife was like, have you taken your medicine today? And I was like, no. And she went to the car and got my anti-anxiety and brought it back. And I hesitated when I told the story on the radio because I was like, I've said it on Hot before.
Yeah.
But on my new job on ESPN, which is a whole new thing, I've never said to them, like, oh, I take Lexapro.
Yeah, that's a vulnerable moment.
And, like, in real life, I don't think it's a big deal. I've never, if someone was like, do you take medicine? I'm like, yeah, I take Lexapro. But on the radio, it's a little different. And I hesitated for a moment, and I was like, and I told the story. And then they were like, my co-hosts were like, made jokes about it, but like nothing friendly. And, I then got like just 2, but I got 2 tweets from people, one woman and one guy, who were like, yo, thanks for saying that you take anti-anxiety medicine.
Yeah.
They were like, I take anti-anxiety medicine. And I was like, that's so tight. That's so tight. In a moment, they felt closer to me because I just told them some regular shit about my life.
Because those individuals have the same sort of maybe insecurity of like putting that out to the world,
right.
and you doing it was like, well, all right, I can be cool with like.
And why would you not?
That helps me out, whatever.
Yeah, like who gives a shit? And so yeah, that was tight.
Okay, the final question. How do I word this? All right, so you're a teacher, right? You have you're giving out a summer reading assignment. 1 book. What assignment do you give out?
Do you mean literally a book, or in this case should it be a podcast or like something?
Oh, okay. I like that. A piece of content, something to follow that your students would benefit from.
It's a fantastic question. Let's see. Reading wise, I'm not much of a reader. I mean, I read books now with a semi-regularly. I'm like a semi-regular reader now. Like I slowly read books.
Yeah.
Like every time I travel, but like I'm not. My parents constantly make fun of me because I'm not a true reader. Trying to think of like so I wouldn't say. I wouldn't say there's one book that I'm like that was the one you need to follow. I haven't read books that made me feel that way. I've read stories that I loved and people that inspired me but didn't necessarily relate to directly. Give me a second. This is silly. This is gonna sound cheesy, but it's the thing that's coming.
Cheese.
It's the thing that's coming to my mind, and I still think there's a lot of lessons in this film that I love, and it's the reason it resonated with me so much. And I related to a character in it, and there's other characters you can relate to, and Almost Famous.
Almost Famous.
I think Almost Famous is a great movie about. I mean, obviously, I relate.
That's a badass summer assignment.
It's always the best.
Love to get that.
Who would not want that summer assignment? If you have ever seen Almost Famous, like the kid in the movie I identify with, obviously, I wasn't that young. I was like 17 when I started chasing it. He's like 15, 16.
Yeah.
But like, and then I know there are a lot of people that could relate to the female lead in the movie. Like, but ultimately, there's a lot of lessons about pursuing the shit that you want to pursue, about being true to who you are, about what actual happiness is.
Yeah.
I just think there's a lot of things in there that are really, that speak to me. And I'm sure if I think about this longer, there might be an album that I think speaks to me more or something like that. But that's what came to my mind.
Peter Rosenberg. In a world where everyone's copying or simulating someone else, thank you for doing you.
That's an ending.
Is that an ending? Podcast? I was trying to do. I wrote it down. Thank you, my man.
That was awesome.
So great to
that
see
ending
you.
really is good.
Look how loud.
I got very loud. So, dude, you end every podcast like that.